All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Once again, thanks for joining everybody. A few minutes of your time today is much appreciated, and trust you find this beneficial. So today's subject is on how to design and configure and quote non-standard mats. Some of you may have already had a chance to play around with the AcroSketch tool. And if you have, hopefully this will help you use it even better. If you haven't, this is your introduction. So we'll get started. Just a bit about myself to kick off with. Many of you I've probably met. If I haven't, Russell Herbert, I'm an account manager here. Been with the company for just over 14 years now. Love doing what I do. Live here in Lakeville. And my passion is all about anti-fatigue mats, and particularly mats that fit just right. So that's what today is about, is to learn how you can use this tool to make that work for you as well. So this is our agenda for the call today. First of all, we'll be talking a bit about what is AcroSketch. Then we'll go into when and how you can use AcroSketch. Then we'll jump into the meat of the content, which is the actual tutorial itself. If there's any questions that you have as we go through, please feel free to put those into the chat and we'll address those after the tutorial. Just go ahead and type those in any time and we'll come back to those. If there's any that we can't answer, we'll for sure get back to you on those as well. And then we'll finish up with some next steps and close up from there. So first up, what is AcroSketch? So I wanted to share a bit of a backstory about AcroSketch and kind of where it came from. So at the end of, it was kind of late in 2017. I can still remember it very clearly, but I was leaving a client's facility and I had been in to measure some custom mats. We were pretty familiar with custom mats at that point. A lot of what we did was custom, and it was very dependent on us coming out to take measurements and help the client that way, and then come back and make a quote for them based off of the drawings we made. And I remember very clearly leaving the parking lot of that client, and it just dawned on me that we need a tool that the customer can do this themselves. Is not even fair to the customer to have to wait for me to get back and then draw it in my software and then send them a quote. And then if we need to make changes, it was a lot of back and forth. So it dawned on me that day that we had to have something that the customer could do this themselves. And I made myself a commitment at that point that AcroMat would have that tool available before I was done. So here we are. We started working on this project in October of last year, and it's been a team effort, a lot of people involved, and have spent just over 300 development hours on it so far. I will also say that it's not done. We're always going to keep adding and improving this tool, and we appreciate feedback too on that from people that are using it. So after a lot of hard work, we launched it on May the 1st of this year. And what it is it's a CPQ tool with breakthrough customizations so that you can actually not only configure a design, but you can also do the design as well. So it's got a drawing tool built in. And really the whole purpose of the tool is that it's made so that end users can then design, configure, and quote mats of any shape and size within minutes. So really eliminating those hurdles of a lot of back and forth between the engineers and the salespeople that are trying to design it, and it can lose a lot of time, lose a lot of efficiency going back and forth. So this gives you the tool to do it yourself. These are some images of actual layouts that we've done through AcroSketch since it was launched, and all of these are actually mats that have been made. They're not just made up ones, but we've actually made these designs and shipped them to customers. So you can see it can get pretty detailed and complex, and we'll get into that some more. Or it could even just be something pretty simple like this one on the left. Really, the sky's the limit with what you can do with it. So next, we want to just talk briefly about when and how to use this. So just think of this as a tool that you can use for anything for non-standard mats. Obviously, we have a whole portfolio of standard sizes, and that's anything from 2 feet wide to 5 feet wide, and then all the way up to 75 feet long. So all of those are standard part numbers. We don't really need to customize those. Anything non-standard is what you would use this tool for. And then you can use it for quoting. You can use it even to place orders. And we also have clients that use it for budgeting. So if you've got a project ahead, maybe 3-6 months down the road, and you want to put in a placeholder for what do you think this project is going to cost, you can actually go ahead and get yourself some budget numbers now, put those in, and at least you'll be close when we get to that point. Another note, it is online, so it's available 24/7. You don't have to wait till we're in the office or we're open. You can do it whenever it's convenient for yourselves. And as I said before, it eliminates that need to wait for us to get back to you with a quote. Obviously, we can still do your designs for you, and we'll continue to do so as needed, but it just puts the tool in your hand if you prefer to do it yourself. So with that, we'll jump into the actual tutorial. So the product lives on our website, acromat.com. And right here in the middle is AcroSketch. And then you'll hit the configure button to get started. But just before we do that, I'm going to just touch on a few things on this page. There's a download for instructions if that helps to follow along. There's also some tutorial videos. Kind of what we're going to do today is included in some of these as well that can help you. You can also book an appointment here if you'd like just a one-on-one session, or if there's anybody else that you'd like to learn how to use this. So those are some of the resources on the page. So then you click on the configure button and it will launch this iframe here, which is where the tool lives. And as we go through, it's just kind of a click and choose software. So the first choice is going to be your mat shape, and you can choose either a square, rectangle, or runner, or a totally custom. So we'll just start with the square and rectangle. So once you click on that, then you're presented with your option to put in inches. So this needs to be inches, and as you'll see here, decimals can't be used. It's just 1 inch increments, but it can be anything non-standard. So maybe you need a 49-inch width, and you need a 127 length, whatever that needs to be. You can just type those in there, and then you'll continue with the configuration through to the next steps, which I'll show you those in a minute. Just a note here, this is in inches. We've had a few cases where people will put 3 in here thinking it's 3 feet, but that would actually need to be 36 inches if you want 3 feet. So you can plug those in there. We'll clear those out and then move to the custom, because this is really the main part of the tutorial, is the custom drawings. Once you click on that, you're presented with this drawing screen. It has a toolbar on the top, which I'll go through each of these. And then here's a blank canvas, so to speak, that you can start drawing on. First of all, the icon on the left is settings. If you click on that, this is your frame. It's defaulted to 812. But if you need to make a bigger frame or a smaller frame, you can do that here by changing the dimensions. Just a tip on this, just make sure you have it plenty big so you don't run out of room either way. And then the grid size is the distance for each of these grid lines. And I always like to have it on 12 to start with, just as a good place to start. It makes it a bit easier to make your sketch. So once you're ready to get started, you'll see the little red dot on the screen is it's snapping to the grid point. So it's gonna create a shape in 12-inch increments. And at this point, the dimensions are not super critical. Mostly what we're trying to do is get the shape correct for the mat that you're trying to design. So start by clicking a point. As you pull away, you will be able to see the dimensions are being added. And you click on another point. Need to get my scale correct here a second. You click on another point and it will add the second line and so on. You don't have to do just straight lines. You can do angles if you like. You can see you can angle across. For the sake of this, we're just going to go some more straight lines. Once you have your shape finished, it's going to add all those dimensions around the edge. So now you've got your shape correct. You're going to want to edit the dimensions to make sure you get those exactly how you want them. And to do that, you simply just click on a line and you can start dragging in 1-inch increments. So you'll see the dimensions are moving as I'm doing this. And you can, this is how you can get this shape then really precise to exactly what you want. It is 1-inch increments. That's the tolerance we have for these mats. So I'll just do a couple more just to show you how that works, but you can just really get this fine-tuned to exactly how you want it. As we come across the top, there's a few more tools I'm going to point out. The next one is this paint bucket, which is the bevel tool. So as this is drawn right now, this mat would have square edges all the way around, but mostly you'll want bevels on the access points. So to do that, you click the paint bucket once and it'll turn yellow, and you can add a yellow bevel around those edges. We recommend that on anywhere there's an access point onto the work area. Sometimes you might want it all the way around, which is fine. You can click any or all of the edges. If you click it one more time, it will turn black. Sometimes you don't need a yellow bevel, you just want a black bevel. So you can see that what happens when you add that one as well. So in this particular case, we'd have a yellow bevel around these 3 sides. We'd have a black bevel around these sides, and the remaining sides would have a square edge with no bevel. If that's going to be up against a machine or piece of equipment, then that's usually a helpful thing to do, is to remove that bevel on the inside edge. A couple more on the tools. This one is an eraser tool. So if you need to add another dimension, you can just click that one. It will delete that line, and you can add more points if you need to, or else just come back to the original one and it will put it back together for you. There's also a tape measure tool. So if you need to verify, what's the length, the overall length of the mat, you can do that with a tape measure tool just to verify dimensions. There's an undo tool, which will just undo your last action. There's also a new tool which was just added this week. If you haven't seen it, is a cutout tool. So if you need to make a, say, a hole in the middle of the mat, maybe for a post or a column or even around a workbench, you can use the cutout tool for that. So if you click on it, it's going to snap into these grids again, and you can actually make a hole right there in the middle of the mat. And again, you can move this line just like we did before to make it exactly how you want it. Oftentimes then, once you do this, you're going to need to have some sort of an unbonded seam so that you can actually get the mat around the piece of equipment. And that's what this seam tool is on the end here. You can just indicate an area where you'd like to have a seam put through on the mat so that it allows you to get that wrapped around without any issue. So the next tool I wanted to show you is the screenshot tool. So once you've got your mat how you want it, you can click this screenshot and it will download a drawing to your computer, which looks like this. So you can see it has all the dimensions included. If you need to share it with anybody else on your team, you can do that. If you need to print it off, you can do that. So shows you where the bevels are going to be, shows you all the dimensions, and obviously where the cutout line is made there as well. So now we've got that how we want it. I was going to show you one more thing up here, the scale tool here. So if you need to zoom in and out, you could do that with the scale tool. If you need to get really close into, one of the sides, you can do that here. So now we're going to configure the actual mat. So you've got the shape done, dimensions are all good, the bevels are all good, and then you'll come down here and choose the mats. For this demo, we're just going to choose the 101 Premium, which is most common of our mat range. You can also do the clean room or ESD or the Nitri Tough, depending on your choice. The 101 has color options, so you can choose those. You can also, because we chose yellow border up here in the drawing, it knows that that's already selected. So you don't have to reselect that option, but you can change the surface if you wish to have a smooth compared to a textured. There's also option for drainage holes. If you need to add those, you can. That's just a click of a button to add if you've got really wet areas. The non-slip coating on the back is very popular just to prevent mats from moving around, especially if they're smaller and they're not, fit to an area quite tight. You may want to add the grip coat on the back. That's just a yes or no on here. These validations over here, this is kind of like required fields. So there's two things it's asking for. One is please enter the area name. So when you use the drawing tool up here, it is going to require a name to be put in. So this could be, test company, cell 7, whatever you need to identify what this mat is going to be, where this mat is going to be placed. And you can see once you enter that in, that validation goes away. There's also special instructions. So maybe you need to put something in here that's not very obvious in the drawing that you want us to know about. Feel free to type any of that in special instructions. And the last validation is just to acknowledge that you've got this mat made how you want it, because we will make it exactly to that specification. Once you check that box, the validation goes away. And now you can see right here is your instant quote. So as we made this mat, you can see as you change options, that can change the quote if you wanted to add drainage holes or if you wanted to add the grip coat, and you can see what those rates are for adding those few things. So once you're satisfied with everything, you click the submit and close button, and then that will add this configuration right into your shopping cart. So you can see it's right here, ready to go. And this would be ready for checkout. So you can either check out with a credit card or purchase order, whatever you need to do for that. And you can actually use this page if you need to send this off to purchasing for a quote or whatever this actually is, the exact quote for that mat that you just designed. So if you have a need for some reason to come back and make an edit to that layout, that's also an option. So you just click the edit button and then edit config. And it will bring you right back to that drawing where we left off. And you can actually go ahead and make changes on here, and it will update the rates as you're making those changes. So that's the wrap on the demo of the tool. Once you're done, like I said, we'll get logins for everybody too. But once you're done, you can proceed to check out, and this can just sit here until you're ready to actually go ahead with the order. So if there's any questions, go ahead and put those in. It looks like there's one question so far about a recording, and we will make a recording available to everybody afterwards as well. That's a good question, and Kimberly is on the call as well. She'll make sure that everyone gets a copy of that. Amex, yes, we do take Amex credit cards. That's not an issue on the website. That can be done. Sure if there's any other questions coming through. So for the next steps then, it's like one more question here about the quote number. There is not actually a quote number associated with that last screen, which is the checkout screen. One of our improvements that we're going to make is you'll actually be able to download a PDF that has everything that you need on there as a quote. We don't have that quite ready yet, but once we do, we can let everybody know. In the meantime, the way to reference what's on that last page in the shopping cart would be with the name that you use to identify the mat. So that's kind of the trigger for us. Looks like another question, estimated time for delivery. That's a good question. We guarantee that everything will ship within 10 business days, even the customs. And if it doesn't ship in 10 business days, then we pay the freight on it. So we have a bit of guarantee in there. Sometimes it can be a little quicker than that if it's a pretty straightforward design, but you can know that within 10 days it will ship. The weight of the mat. So we can get you some information about the weights per square foot, which you can use to actually figure the overall weight out. There's not actually a field on the website that shows the weight of the configured mat, but we can get you a table so you can actually help to cross-reference what that final weight would be. So we'll follow up with everybody on the call today and make sure you have a login for the website. That makes sure that your configurations are tied to the correct account when they come through. The other thing we'll be doing is sending out a measuring kit to everybody as a thank you for joining. So that includes one of these nice AcroMat tape measures, 25 foot long, and also a sketch pad for when you're out taking measurements. It looks like this. And then on the inside, it has a graph paper that you can kind of sketch up the measurements first, then come back to your computer and put those in on AcroSketch. So we'll be dispatching this to you shortly. And looks like one more question, only one factory in the US. Yes, we're in Minneapolis, or in Lakeville, which is just south of Minneapolis. That's where everything would ship from. So hopefully that's been informative. Appreciate everybody joining today and the good questions. And we'll follow up shortly with making sure we get your addresses to send these measuring packs to. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and thanks again for joining. Take care.